Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Synergy presentation on leveraging Onvio for management for streamlined operations. My name is Emmy Valme, and I'm a senior technical trainer at Thomson Reuters. In this session today, we're going to discuss the different tools and features that will allow us to leverage Onvio for management to streamline our day-to-day operations. So basically, we're going to look at some of the features and tools in Onvio that can help facilitate our daily task. Together, we're going to look at how to set up folder structures in Onvio. So when it comes to setting up folder structures, we can create templates that could then be assigned to multiple clients. In one of the examples, we're going to see that we can assign a template to a workflow. So together, we're going to set up a workflow where we're going to create project and task, and we're going to assign those project and task to staff members and to clients. The last thing we're going to see is how to manage our projects and tasks in Onvio and how we can request documents from our clients, and those documents will be used in order to complete our project. So let's dive into Onvio for management and look at how to set up a folder structure. So the first thing we're going to look at together is how we can establish folder templates. And that's a key element when it comes to building our firm processes in Onvio for management. By creating folder templates, we can have a clear structure where our staff could then save their documents in Onvio for management. It will help improve our organization, where it's going to make it easier for anybody in the firm to locate any documents. It will also help or facilitate the onboarding process for new hires and for new clients. In order to create a new folder template, we must click on the Setup menu, and under Firm, we're going to click on Folder Templates. So again, once we're in the Setup menu, we simply need to click on Folder Templates. In this section, we can create folder templates that could then be assigned to multiple clients. We have several options that will allow us to assign those folders to clients. So we can assign them to new added Onvio clients or even to existing clients. And we're going to see that we can actually assign a folder template to certain projects. In regards to the third option, I strongly suggest to use a folder template or to assign a folder template to quarterly projects or to annually projects. Once we assign the template to a client or to a project, the template will then be visible in the client's file in Onvio documents. If you have a structure already in place on your computer, you can actually mimic that structure in Onvio. So here you could click on New Template and create the same exact templates or folders that you have on your computer and add them in Onvio. If you're starting out from fresh, if you have a blank canvas and you're not sure how to start, I would recommend visiting our Help and How To Center, where we have examples of different folder structures that you can create. So here, in order to access our Help and How To Center, you can click on the circle with the question mark on the top right corner of the screen. And once you click on that circle with the question mark, on the search field, you could just type in folder templates. You must click on the first article, and if you scroll down, you're going to see two examples of different structures that you can set up in Onvio. So for the first structure, that we can see that we have a permanent folder, and then we have another folder starting with the year. So you can create a folder for 2024 and then have subfolders for all of the correspondence, source documents, tax notice, financial statements. Or you could go in reverse. You can have a main folder for the correspondence, source documents, and tax notice, and then have subfolders for each year. So those two examples are available in our help in How to Center. And again, you can access our help by clicking on the circle with the question mark. But for today, what we're going to create together is a template that's going to be used mainly for a project. So in order for us to create a new template, we're going to click on plus new template. Then in the new window, we can add the name of our main folder. So for this example, the main folder will be called Individual Tax Work Papers. This folder is going to be used in order to add any documents that might be necessary for the project, or any documents that are related to the project. So here I'm going to continue by pressing on save, and we have our main folder called Individual Tax Work Papers. If you wish to create subfolders, you just need to click on the main folder, and then you're going to see the option to add a new folder. So again, once you click on that main folder, you can go ahead and click on new, and you're going to see the option to add a subfolder. Once you click on plus folder, you have again the field where you can type in the name of the subfolders. So here as an example, again, we have our main folder, which is an Individual Tax Work Papers, and we could create subfolders for, let's say, any administrative documents that we wish to save. So we can have a subfolder called Administrative, and in that folder we can save any tax forms, any correspondence, or any engagement letter related to the project or to the client. You can also create a subfolders for any credits. So just to give you an example, if you know that your client every year qualifies for the GST and the HST credit, you can create a subfolder where you can save that form, and then you could share that folder with your client so they're able to see the amount that they will receive and when they will receive that amount. Similar thing if you're in Quebec. So it's really similar if you're in Quebec and your clients have the Solidarity Tax Credit. If you want to send them that form in a secure platform, I recommend saving the form in Onvio into a folder called Credits, and then you could share that folder with your client. So here as an example, I'm just going to create a folder called Administrative. I'm going to click on Save. I'm also going to create another subfolder called Credits. And again, by pressing on New and then Plus Folder, I'm going to create another subfolder called Confirmation. And in that folder, I can actually save any e-file confirmation forms, or if I have a payment receipt, I'm able to save it in here. If you want to add even more deeper level, so if you want to add another subfolder, again, you could always click on that main folder and then click on New, and then you have the option here to add another subfolder. So you can have one for, let's say, engagement letters, and you can even create one where your clients are able to save any tax forms that will be used for that project. So now that I'm in a subfolder, if I want to go back to the main folder, I simply need to click on Folder Templates. Okay, that's going to bring me back to that main level. There are 3 features in Onvio that will allow us to assign that folder template to clients. The first option is simply by ticking the box right beside the folder and by clicking on the Manage menu. Once you're in the Manage menu, you will see the option called Properties, and here you could specify the entity type for whom you want to assign that new folder template. So what's going to happen is that as soon as you add a client manually in Onvio for management, that client will automatically be assigned that folder template in Onvio documents. So if you have a permanent folder that you want to assign to all of your clients, you could go ahead here and click on select all. And again, as soon as you add a new client in Onvio documents, you will see that assigned folder. Another feature where we could assign folders to multiple clients is through the client setup. So in the client setup, we're able to assign this folder template to existing clients. So here, if I click on setup, I'm able to click on clients. Here I can see the list of all of my clients. If I want to assign that folder template to only the clients whose entity is individual, just know that you can just click on this icon, which allows you to view the group panel. So on the right hand side, you can click on this little icon in order to view the group panel, and then click on the title of the column and simply drag and drop it to the grouping area. So again, this will allow us to view only the clients whose entity is individual. So by clicking on this icon, we're going to see the grouping area right here, and then we can select the title of the column and then drag and drop it to the grouping area. And then we can easily select our individual clients. Once we select the clients, we can then click on the edit button on the top. And once we click on edit, we're going to see an option to add folders. So by clicking on the second option, we can proceed by selecting the folder. So on the first field, we're going to use the drop-down menu to create a new folder from a template. So by using the first drop-down menu, click on the second option, and then you could select the template that was previously created in Onvio. So here we have individual tax work papers. We have our name, we have the name of the folder, and we can add the year. We can proceed with step number 3, which is the review, and we can see that our folder template called individual tax work papers will be assigned to the 3 selected clients. Okay, so once we click on done, we will be able to view the folders in Onvio documents. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we could also assign folder templates to projects. Before we look at how to assign those folder templates to a project, I'm going to describe the different levels of a workflow that we can set up in Onvio. And projects is actually one tier of our workflow hierarchy that we can set up in the system. So just know that there are 3 levels of a workflow hierarchy that we can set up in Onvio. Okay, so there are actually 3 tiers of a workflow hierarchy that we can set up in Onvio for management. The first tier are services, and this is really easy. It's basically the different services that you offer to your clients. So as an example, we have tax services, but if you offer accounting services or payroll services, you will be able to add that information in Onvio. You could then specify in Onvio the different hourly rates that you charge your clients for those services. And those services can also be used as a code for time entry. So if, for example, you have a different rate for tax services and another one for accounting services, you could set up service templates, assign those service templates to clients, And then when it comes to the time entry, your staff will be able to select the client and then select the service template. And the rate will be automatically populated in Onvio. Services could also be used can also be useful when it comes to reporting. So instead of having a report that lists all of the different projects that were done for a client, you can actually generate a report for a summary of the total revenues that you earn from different services. So that's the first tier of our hierarchy. Again, it's services. And as an example, we have here tax services. But what we're going to look at today are project and task. So projects are anything that has to do with a due date. So it's all the work that needs to be performed for clients at a specific due date. As an example, we have individual tax income or individual income tax, but we can have another project for, let's say, business income tax or even payroll. So if you know that you have a project or work that needs to be done at a specific due date and you want to make sure that you complete that work on time, I strongly suggest that you create projects in Onvio. Then we have activities. So activities are used as billing code when it comes to time entry. So in the time entry screen, we can specify the activity that was done for the project, and then we can actually enter how much time we spent on that activity. If we're licensed, or if you're licensed for Onvio for Management Advanced, you can actually assign an activity to a project for it to become a task. So again, if you're licensed for Onvio for Management Advanced, you could assign an activity to a project and then it will become a task. And with that, we can actually list the different tasks or the different step that needs to be performed by our staff in order to complete a project. So as an example here, in order for our staff to complete a T1 individual income tax, we need first to collect the data from the client. So that will be our first task. That first task could be completed by a client or it could be assigned to a staff member. Then we have the preparation of the tax return, which will be assigned to a staff member. We have the verification of the return, and we're going to end with e-filing the return. So we can keep it simple, or we can have as much task as possible. And again, each one of those tasks could be assigned to a staff member, and you do have the option to assign certain tasks to clients. So now let's look at how to add a project template in Onvio. So here I'm going to go back to Onvio for Management, and we're going to click on the Setup menu, and then we're going to select Project Templates. So again, once you're in the Setup menu, simply click on Project Templates. In order to create a new template, we're going to click on Add, and you're going to be redirected to the tab here called General. So we want to keep this screen as default or as generic as possible so we could assign the template to multiple clients. Once we assign the template to clients, if we need to make changes specific for that client, we will be able to do so in their file. So here for the ID, we're going to give it a short name. Just know that you're limited in the number of characters that you can add on this field. So as an example, I'm just going to add IDN followed by tax. If you're in Canada, you can write T1. If you're in Quebec, you can add T1/TP1, and that's going to be your ID for this project. Then we're going to add a name. So for here, okay, so we're going to add the name. So I'm just going to type in individual income tax as the full name for this project. And then for application, we're going to keep it for as none. For the priority, we're going to keep it as normal. Just know that once the project template is assigned to a client, we can then change the priority. So we have a client, if we have a client that walks in and he needs that project done by the end of this week or the end of the week, then we can change the priority for high. Okay, but again, we're only going to do this once the template is assigned to the client. We have a field for statuses. So this is really important if you're not licensed for Onvio Firm Management Advanced. So as I mentioned before, you can actually add any activity to a project and that will become a task. With those tasks, you're able to know exactly which step of the process your staff are at when it comes to completing the project. So if you're licensed for Onvio Firm Management Advanced, on the left-hand side, you're going to see a tab here called Task, again, where you're able to add the different activities that needs to be completed by the staff in order to complete the project. If you're not licensed for Onvio Firm Management Advanced, then we recommend using the statuses. And here again, you could list the different tasks that would need to be completed by your staff. So just to give you an example, if you want to make sure that the client paid before you e-file the return or before you print the return, I would recommend to add a status called waiting on payment or payment confirm. So once we send a payment to the client, the staff will be able to change the status to waiting on payment. And once we receive the payment, we can then change the task to receive payment, and then we can continue with the project. Another example is if, for example, having the electronic signature is an important step before you e-file the return. Again, you will add that information under statuses. So you would put e-signature, and you want to make sure that the signature has been signed by your clients before you complete the return. So to add new statuses in Onvio, you could just use this drop-down menu and then click on plus add statuses. And again, it's going to be a way for you to track where your staff are at when it comes to completing the project. We're going to continue with the section called primary assignment, where we're able to assign the project to a staff member. So you do have two options. You could use the partner, the manager, or the associate that was added in the client setup, or you could specify the staff that will be responsible for that project. If you don't know yet, you could leave this field blank, and once the project is assigned to the client, then you will be able to choose the staff. So just know that usually firm, they will specify under primary who will be the preparer for the project. So if you know a specific staff will be responsible in preparing the return, then you could add the name of the staff under primary. Then we have secondary staff, and we can also specify who will be responsible in reviewing the project once completed. We have a section here where we could select a folder that will be used for the project. So you do have a drop-down menu where you could create a new folder, or you could select a folder template. So by selecting folder template, you could then choose the template that was created in Onvio. So we have our individual tax work papers. We also have the name here. And if we need to make changes, we could do it here. And what's going to happen is that as soon as I assign this project to a client, the client will automatically receive that folder in Onvio document. So the folder will be automatically assigned to the client in Onvio document. We could then use that folder in order to upload any documents that will be needed for this project. And the beauty of using it through the project screen is that every year when I create a new project for individual tax return, it will create a new folder called individual tax work papers, and the year will be automatically added by Onvio. So this year we're going to have one for 2024, and then the next year we're going to have another one for 2025. Now let's continue with the tab called recurrence. So on the first field, we're able to specify if we only want only one series of this project template per client. And I strongly suggest that you click on yes. We want to make sure that this template is assigned only once to our clients. We want to make sure that we can't assign the same template with the same due date twice for the same client. So by clicking on yes, we allow only one series of this project template per client. Then we have the pattern for the project. It's due every year. If you're creating a project called monthly bookkeeping, you have a drop-down menu where you can select monthly. Okay, and you have other options here. By default, you have the option must occur on the weekdays selected. So if we want this project to occur on the weekdays, we want to avoid working on the weekends. Well, I have to admit it does happen during tax season, but for the most part, we want to make sure that this project occurs only on the weekdays. And in regards to the due date, we want to make sure that it happens before the weekend, or we do have the option to specify that we want it to occur after the weekend. So here what's going to happen is that if the due date lands on, for example, a Saturday, and we selected that we want to occur after the weekend, Onvio will change the due date so that it appears for the following Monday. If we select before the weekend, again, if that due date lands on a Saturday, Onvio will change the due date so that it does appear for the Friday. Okay, so these are tools that will allow you to not miss any deadlines. If you want to make sure that you hit your deadline on time, I recommend using this option here. But just know that the government usually give us to the following business day in order to e-file, then you could use this option as well. Since we're creating a project for individual tax, income tax, we don't need this option. So we're going to uncheck based on the fiscal year end, and this is going to allow us to select the month for the due date. So this project is due on April 30th, so I'm just going to add the month and then the day. We can specify the generation method, and I have to admit I love this feature. So if you want to make sure to get a automation from Onvio every year in order to make sure that you don't forget certain clients and certain projects, I would recommend that you utilize this feature. So by using this drop-down menu, we can specify when we want the second project to occur in Onvio. You do have the option to select when the current is completed. So what's going to happen is that as soon as I complete the project for this year, that same instance, the next project for next year will automatically appear in Onvio under the project screen. Now, it might be relevant for other projects. For individual income tax, I don't recommend that feature. I would recommend the second one where we could specify the days until the next due date. So with the second option, I can tell Onvio that I want the project to appear in Onvio project screen 2 months before the due date. So 2 months before April 30th, the next project will appear in the project manager screen in Onvio. You also have the option to specify when you create the project manually. So if you rather wait till the client contacts you for you to create that project every year, then you could select that third option, which is when I manually create it. So these are the main sections that I would recommend updating or completing when creating a project template. If you're licensed for Onvio for Management Advanced, we're going to continue with the tab here called Task. And this is where you could list the different activities that will be needed in order to complete the project. So if you click on Add, you're going to see that the first order, okay, which is the first task, could be assigned to a staff member or could be assigned to a client. So if we look back at the workflow schema that I shared, the first task was collecting data from our client. So we have two options here. We can ask a staff to contact the client in order to get all of the necessary documents, or we can send a document request to a client so that he can send us the documents. So we're going to actually do that together. So here I'm going to select the second option in order to select client-facing task. And as you can see here, we're going to set up a document request. We can also specify the staff that will make sure that all of the documents were sent by the client. So we do want to make sure that a staff verifies that all the information was sent by the client. So once we're done here, we're going to click on Save and Close. So that's our first task. We're going to continue by pressing on plus add. And our second task will be a staff-facing task, and it will be the preparation of the tax return. Sorry. So here by clicking on Activity, we have a drop-down menu. And if we scroll down, you should see Prepare. And that information should already be inside your Onvio account. If you don't have a billable activity called Prepare, just know that in Onvio, you could go to the setup screen, and in the setup screen, you will see a section called Activities. So again, if you're about to add task to a project and you notice that certain activities are missing, you could go to the setup menu, click on Activities, and then you could create a new one here. Okay, so it's really easy. We're going to ask you to specify the name of the activity, if it's a billable or non-billable, and you could specify the rate. So for that second task, I selected preparation for the T1 return. And again, if I scroll down here, I'm able to specify who is the assignment. So who is the staff that will be responsible. We don't have applications, so we can continue. If we're licensed for Onvio for Management Advanced, we can specify the status and the date, and we can also budget information. Let's continue. We have two tasks. We have two more to go. So I'm going to click on Add. We're going to add a task here for, let's see, the verification of the return. So we have it here. We're going to click on Save and Close. And the last one will be used for e-file. So again, it's a staff-facing task, and we're going to select the activity called e-file. So again here, our staff will need to complete those 4 tasks, sorry, in order to close the project or in order to mark the project as completed. So just know that once each staff completes their task, the system will automatically complete the project. To save the project template, we're going to go ahead here and click on Save. So now that we have completed the project template, we do have 2 options when it comes to assigning the template to clients. The first option is that we can go to the setup menu and select clients. So it's a similar process as the one we just saw when it comes to assigning folder templates. So again, by going to setup clients, we can select multiple clients, click on edit, and then we will see the option to add a project. We also have the option to assign project templates to client through the project manager screen. So if we click on projects, you will see the option to add a project. So what I did here is just to show you on the right hand side, I clicked on projects, and once I click on add, it's going to allow me to add a new client in Onvio and assign a project template, or select an existing client and then assign the project template. So as an example here, I'm going to choose an existing client. So I have a client here called Erica Thompson, and on the right hand side, I'm going to select the new template that we created together. As you can see, the due date was automatically assigned by the system. Now, if you need to change the due date, you can click on the calendar icon and you will have the option to change that due date. If you want to assign the project to a staff, then you could click on View Full Project Setup. So on the top right corner, you would see View Full Project Setup. And once you click on it, here at the bottom, you do have the option to specify who will be the primary assignment. So who will be responsible, who will be the preparer for that project. You can also select a secondary staff, and you could specify who will be the reviewer. On the left hand side, if you're licensed for Onvio for Management Advanced, you're going to see a tab called Task. So it's exactly the same tab that we saw when creating a template. So by clicking on Task, we're able to view the different tasks that needs to be completed by our staff member, and we can actually click here on Edit in order to choose who will be responsible for those tasks. So it could be different staff members, or it could be the same staff. Once you're done, in order to assign the template to a client, we're going to click on Save and Open. Okay, save and open, save and close. Okay, so I'm just going to click here on Cancel. It's going to bring me back to the Project Manager screen. And if I do a search, I'm going to see my client here called Erica, and we have the project that was assigned to the client. Okay, so again, we have Erica, and we have the project that was just assigned to the client. So just know that on this screen, we can manage all of the projects that were assigned to clients. So just to give you an example, if I want to see the projects that are not yet assigned and that maybe they're coming close to a due date. So what I can do here is I can filter my entire project list. So there's two ways to go about this. I can use the filters that are available here on the right corner, or I can click on this little icon, and that's going to open a filter panel where I could choose the different columns that I wish to filter. So again, here what we want to do is we want to see all of the projects that are not yet assigned to an employee and that are coming close to a due date. So what I can do is I can select the column called current due date and drag and drop that column to the grouping area. So similar to the feature that we saw in the client setup, by clicking on this icon here, I can view the group panel, and then I can select the column and drag it to the grouping area. So here we can see that we have a lot of old projects that are not yet completed. We also see the new ones here at the bottom. So once we select a section, we just have the name of the projects, and we know who's the client and the primary assignment. If we want to add another level to our filter, we can even take the column here called status and drag and drop it to the grouping area. Okay, and we can even take the column called primary in order to view if any staff members were assigned to those projects, and drag and drop it to the grouping area. So for the ones that are past due, if we open up the project, we can see that we have 2 projects that are not yet started. And if I click again to the plus, I see that those 2 projects are not yet assigned to a primary. So I don't see the names here of a staff member that was assigned to that project, to those 2 projects. Now, if I need to assign those 2 projects to staff members, I could select those 2 projects. Okay, so we have them 2 here. Then I could go to, okay, perfect. So I'm going to select again. Then I can click on the edit button that's available here on the top. And that's going to allow me to change the general information for the 2 selected projects. So if I continue with step number 2 and I scroll down, I can specify who will be the staff that will be responsible for those projects. Okay, and I can tell them that they could start working on those projects right away. So I can change the priority to high since they're past the due date. And again, I could select who will be responsible for those projects. We have the 3rd tab, which is our review tab. So we see the 2 projects will be assigned to those 2 staff members, or to that staff member, Cindy Turner. And then we can continue by pressing on done. Now, what's going to happen is that as soon as you assign a project or a task to a staff member, they will be able to view that information on their home screen. So here what we did is we have 2 projects that are not yet started, and now we can see that they're assigned to the staff called Cindy Turner. Cindy, as soon as she logs into Onvio for Management, she can go to her home dashboard, and once she scrolls down, she's going to see a window called My Assignments, and she's going to see all of the work that was assigned to her. So on that home dashboard, as you could see, we have multiple projects that are past due, and we see the 2 that were just assigned to the staff called Cindy Turner. As soon as she's ready to start working on those projects, she can change the status and then click on started. Okay, she has that option to do so. Once a staff changes the status of a project, that same information will be available on the project manager screen. Now, in regards to the project that we created together, if you remember correctly, that first task is actually assigned to a client, and that requires us to send that client a document request. A document request will allow us to send a request to a client so that he can send us all of the tax documents that are needed so that we can start the project. So that first task was for client Erica Thompson. So we have it right here. If I click on edit, okay, it's going to show me the project detail. And on the left hand side, we're going to click on task. And we're going to see that first task, which is a document request. Once we click on edit and we scroll all the way down, we're able to send a request to the client. So for the recipient, we're going to select our client here, Erica. So this is her name as a primary contact, and we have her email address. And we do have the option to send that request via email. And if she has access to the online portal, which is Onvio Client Center, we can send that request via the portal. Okay, so she can log into Onvio Client Center and complete that task that was sent to her. Here, we're going to select where we want those documents to be saved in Onvio. So we can click on Browse in order to choose an existing folder. So we have our individual tax work paper folder that was assigned to the client. Once we go into that folder, we see our subfolders. We can go into the administrative folder and then select tax forms. Okay, so we can go ahead here and select. So what's going to happen is that as soon as Erica dumps those documents in Onvio Client Center, those documents will be saved in this folder. Let's continue with our requests. Here we could specify the documents we need. If you have a list of documents, you can go ahead and type those in. So it could be, for example, a T4. We can add another document. It could be a T5. Okay, so you can list all of those documents. Or what you could just do is put a general description. So we can say just tax forms and slips. Okay, or actually just tax slips. We're going to add a subject here for our request. So we're going to add tax slips for, let's say, 2025. And then we can click on Send and Close in order to send the request over to our client. As soon as you click on Send and Close, you're going to see the status of the request was changed for waiting on client. You're able to track all of the requests that are sent to your clients in Onvio documents. So if I click here on Documents and I click on the last tab, which is the Communication tab, I'm able to view here the request that was sent to my client, Erica Thompson. The beauty of using this feature is that all of the staff members could see all of the requests that were sent to clients. You can even manage the requests by clicking on this option here on the left hand side, and you do have filters available where you can filter the list in order to view only your requests or the ones that are still pending. And if you have clients that they haven't received the email, or you just want to send them a reminder, you could always come back to the request. So you can click on the title of the request and you will see the option to resend email. Again, what's going to happen is that as soon as the client dumps or adds all the forms into the request, you're going to receive a notification by email, and you will see that information, or you will see all of the slips and forms and Onvio documents, okay, in the client's folder. So then your staff will be able to use those documents in order to complete the project. So this concludes the presentation on leveraging Onvio Firm Management for streamlined operations. So we saw that we can create folder templates and assign those templates to multiple clients, or to attach the template to a project. We also saw that in Onvio, we can create project templates and add tasks, which allows us to see at which step our staff are at when it comes to completing the project. Then we saw that we can send a document request to our clients, which will allow the clients to dump any document into the folder so that we can complete the project. So thank you for listening, or thank you for taking part of our Synergy conference. So just know that I will be available at the kiosk. If you have any questions in regards to Onvio, we'll be happy to answer your questions. And also, if you have a moment, please complete our session evaluation or the Synergy survey. We would gladly appreciate if we have feedback from our customers. So again, you could complete the Synergy survey that was sent to you by email. So again, thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your Synergy.